Hi, welcome to In the Metal. In the Metal is a webcast which is hosted by myself, Johnny McElherron in Ireland, and with US master watchmaker and ex Anthrax rocker Dan Spitz. And we are dedicated to the fascinating world of independent watchmaking, and in particular, the people who make it happen. So it's been a little while since our last episode, but I'm delighted to be back today and with Dan, and also to introduce an emerging prodigy from Denmark, and really looking forward to having a conversation with the young guy, Rune Bakkendorff. So we'll get on to that in a moment. But first, as it's been quite a while, I wanted to cross the pond from Ireland to Gun Barrel City in Texas, no less, and to see if Dan Spitz is still there. Ireland calling.
What's going on, my man Johnny?
It is nobody less than Dan Spitz himself. How the hell are you doing, my man?
I'm doing really, really good. Here in my workshop, and good to see you. I heard you've been very busy doing Ireland things, representing your country, and we're all watching you, and we're all very proud of you. You know, that's what we stand for here in independent watchmaking, is people outside of Switzerland. Representing their countries, because independent watchmaking is certainly global now, with incredible artists. And we're just so proud to have you help us to bring our art to other parts of the world where you're from. And so tell us a little about that, because that's why another reason we've had a little bit of a hiatus here. Johnny's been working his ass off.
Well, I've been do the way we do this show, Dan? It's called winging it, you know. So I've kind of been winging it my way through this amazing world of independent watchmaking, and I've been communicating with a lot of the watchmakers, and sometimes I have to pinch myself, that I can call these people friends.
Mhm.
And that, we had a little gig in Ireland about 3 weeks ago, and I'll come back to that very shortly, because our guest tonight was actually with us in Ireland. And so we have made his apologies for him, and the bar staff have agreed to allow him back in again if he returns next year. So it was it took some bribing, but anyway. So no, we had great fun. We'll talk about that in a moment or two. But the point is, working with these people is just it's like living in a fantasy world a little bit, because it's not really connected to reality. We're talking with people who are creating historically significant masterpieces, like yourself, Dan. I can't wait to see the fruit of your labors over the last year and a half.
Yeah. Working very hard, and I'm working on some other things that will be announced shortly as well.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I really look forward.
But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, before we bring Rune on, just to throw this out there, it is, we're in a time like it was kind of like in the '80s for metal for me. Where you don't realize it, but we're surrounded by them. You and I are blessed to be friends with walking legends who their stuff will be in museums when I'm gone and when they're gone. I mean, they're already entering into Sotheby's auction houses and other auction houses around the world, and gaining incredible amounts of money for pieces, and they're still alive. That just should show you, if you're a collector, if you're an investor collector, and still love watchmaking, but looking at it as also an investment, it has turned that corner in a huge way. And we're blessed to be friends with a lot of these guys. They're really cool.
Yeah, it has taken off a momentum all of its own. What used to be an outlier in the watch industry is now very much part of the the whole the industry. The independent watchmaking has just really the interest, the awareness, the volume of demand, the volume of inquiries, the volume of sales, thank goodness, has just shot up through the roof as people, collectors, have become aware of this. And it's a kind of phenomenon. And I don't know necessarily whether it is a good thing that there is far more demand than there is supply for some brands, and where people are kind of, you know what collectors are like, they're kind of tunnel visioned. And maybe not collectors. Collectors are possibly a little bit more adventurous. But people who want to buy a watch so they can make a profit on it, they're kind of looking at 5 or 6 independent brands and are oblivious to what's going on outside that. And it's kind of our job to rein that in and to say, right, guys, there is more on the landscape than what you can just see. So that's
why it's so good to see like someone who we're going to bring on right now, who is of the younger generation, they see what you just spoke about, as well as the collectors, watchmakers coming out of school who then go on to have a good experience in brands, working for brands. They're not waiting 25 years or 30 years to try to make their own timepieces anymore. There's opportunity to put your art out there now, and there are ways to do it, and that's why I'm very happy to have Rune on today.
Yeah, well, this guy Rune Bakkendorff is a student of one of the legends of independent watchmaking. And we've kept you out in the background for a while, but just one moment, folks, to show you this is what Rune is about, or one of his amazing creations. And we will be talking about that. And in my ever professional way, with not having created a backdrop for that. So let us go forward and welcome Rune Bakkendorff. How are you?
Hi, guys. Very well. Hope you're well.
Hey, Rune, how you doing, buddy?
Great, Dan.
So we can actually let everyone know we officially can switch this to this for Rune, because he's serious metalhead, like most watchmakers.
And young
the best watchmaker.
The disease is everywhere. So right off the bat, we know, because you're a metalhead, that you're a nice, honest boy.
Exactly.
So we can start this off right away. You're part of the loving family of metalheads, and really, that is truthful. We are a unique bunch of people, and most of us are deep, embedded in the arts of some form or fashion. And
exactly. Metal music is really about expressing yourself, and it shows in all sides of life.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it funny, Johnny? Right? See, we've exposed so many to know that some of our greatest walking legends in watchmaking, in indie watchmaking, who create art, micromechanical art, they're almost all of them metalheads. Some deeper than others. And
I think it's like just society in general. There is so much diversity, but young people, I guess, like Rune is from Denmark, so you live, I think, on the outskirts of Copenhagen. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Just north of Copenhagen.
Just north of Copenhagen, and like so many young Scandinavian dudes and dudettes, the dominant musical force there is metal inspired. Like so many, like Scandinavia.
I used to love playing there. It's a beautiful city, Copenhagen. I mean, we would take extra days off just to stay there and chill. I know, because Lars was from there. We used to tour at Metallica a lot. So you definitely have some serious metal coming out of there. But how did you tell everyone how you got into from black metal to watchmaking metal?
Well, funny story. I got into watches before I got into music. I've always known that I wanted to be a watchmaker. There wasn't a time where I didn't want to be a watchmaker. Ever since I was a little kid, I really feel like it's my métier. I have these, stories from my parents about, your first word was watch and all this, and it's more or less true. I've always been fascinated with instruments and hands and dials and stuff moving about. So that is some seed put by some creator sometime. It really is.
Do you remember what triggered you? Was it something in your family, an heirloom or something, or just?
Actually, I would love to have some amazing story about this heirloom watch that really changed my life. But this seed has been in me since I was born. I really don't know. We have some nice heirlooms in my family, and my father traded tall case clocks when he was younger as a hobby, a sales guy. But it really is some. It feels supernatural, or something a bit more basic than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always wanted it.
And also, Johnny has brought to light that you're also a TV star. So let everyone know what kind of TV star you are. I mean, you're a man of all trades at your age already, or else you're mystifying us and you look young, but you're really a lot older. So fill us in.
I've heard I look young, but well, when you keep your mind open, and I really feel like I have an open mind, you get all sorts of experiences. And I ended up on a TV show through my skills in conservation and historical clocks, especially on the Danish adaptation of The Repair Shop, which is quite popular around the world, at least in Johnny's neck of the woods.
It's a global phenomenon.
That's great.
It's one of those franchised shows that are widely popular because people just love to see other people working on, be it old cars, or be it property, or be it gardening, or be it what Rune is talking about, repair shop, which is working with old machinery and old gadgets that are maybe seen their best. And like, it's not just clocks and watches that you. I think that was what you were originally invited on for, was to.
Yeah. I was invited on because much of my work is done in historical conservation, and someday they were like, we have this amazing scene from the English adaptation with this watchmaker who repairs old FM radio. There's some mechanical error in some switch or something, and they really liked this idea, and they kind of wanted to recreate this moment. And then they had a guest who had a Bang & Olufsen record player, and they were like, do you think you could figure out what's wrong with it? And I let them know that I have a stereo myself. I bought it. It's an old stereo from the 80s, and I restored it, so I'll give it a crack. And then, when you give the devil a little finger, they take the arm. So I ended up doing all sorts of weird stuff. But I really mostly enjoyed the clocks because, it is my job, but also it really conveys emotion and connects generations. Even people who have never met, watches and clocks can really connect generations. So those were some of the best stories we did there. That's also why I love being a watchmaker, to be able to create these connections between family members and people all around.
Sharing the love. See, there it is again. Fill us just quickly. Fill us in on the school you went to, and were you always repairing stuff, like as a kid, like kind of like my room looked like NASA for the neighborhood, and everybody dumped their shit at my house to be fixed. But like, fill us swiftly, just so listeners, so they have a background on the master you are.
Yeah. As a kid, very technically interested, did a lot of stuff. I also loved science, and I loved trains and guns and war technology and all these, healthy boy things to love. And it was very natural for me that I wanted to become a watchmaker. So I tried to go for that. But then my parents were a bit like, trade school, because watchmaking has a trade school education here in Denmark. And they were like, just a trade school, maybe you should get a bit of, let's say, scientific basis. And they agreed, at the trade school that it really helped. So I took something called the higher technical examination in Denmark, which is like upper secondary school, but focused on science. And it really helped me a lot. All this physics and chemistry and mathematics, it really helps. And after that, I took a 4-year apprenticeship and then straight on to Thomas.
Wow. Okay. Thomas being Thomas Prescher. We'll come to that in a few moments. So, yeah, it's been a fascinating CV so far, Rune. You know, got like what?
Very happy.
What age are you now?
I'm 31. I'm from 1990.
No way, 31. Like, what's in the water up there in Denmark? I'm 32.
You know, you need less Guinness, more Carlsberg, I guess.
Hey,
that's good. Actually,
yeah, I want to go there, man. You know, but speaking of Guinness, yeah, because we got to meet each other quite by just by a wonderful just a fluke of opportunity where you heard that I was organizing an event in Ireland, and the event down was called the Festival of Time, and so this is an inaugural event. It was in an amazing location, and but in a quite hard to reach part of Ireland. It's a famous place, Waterford City, home of Waterford Crystal, and the oldest city in Ireland. So it is steeped in history, and it's a fantastic place. It's a little hard to get to, and Ireland does not have the kind of transport infrastructure that you would get elsewhere in Europe, and that's because they dug up all the railways and in the 40s, 50s, and 60s to make way for roads and shit like that. And now we don't have that. So it's a difficult place to get to, but what a place. And I'm just going to show you, I've got a couple of photographs of it. This is the center of where we had the Festival of Time. And this is called it's part of the Viking Triangle, because Waterford was pretty much founded by the Vikings, or at least not founded by, but the Vikings made it one of their landing spots in Ireland. And so the area is called the Viking Centre, and right in the middle there is that incredible architecture, which is called the Medieval Museum, and that's where we all gathered, this great bunch of people, for a weekend of watchmaking in Waterford. And
look at that! Look at all those masters in one little spot there.
It's insane. I can't believe it. I'm still trying to process what actually happened here 3 weeks ago. It was, you know, it's something like I actually gave up panicking about it because whenever the idea was first suggested, it was Ireland was closed for business. So we did not know how long it was going to be closed for business. We did not know what kind of restrictions were going to be in place by the time the event happened. And we kind of had to run with it, and as if it was happening, and while all the time not being sure it would actually happen. And it was really only, I think, around the 6th of April when I returned home from Geneva, from Watches and Wonder in Geneva, and I felt myself, right, this is definitely going to happen. And
well, I think, you know, we're very proud of you. We were speaking about this so everyone knows before we came on to you guys, how proud we are of Johnny. You know, we all need more Johnnies, you know, around the world, because indie watchmaking is, as you can see, we are now at the forefront where we belong, and we're gathering the recognition of the living legends that are walking, and they were right there, you know, for the first fair, you know, of Ireland being represented. What do you got going on there?
I think we've been hacked, man. I think we've been hacked. Someone put around with people in a pub, and wait, there is Rune Bakkendorff right in the middle.
That's great.
Thomas Prescher, some other guy, McElherron. Then you've got Heike, you've got Christian Lass, Mark Cheney, Steve McGonigal, John McGonigal, and they're in the back of Vianney Halter and Laurence Bretignier, who is Vianney's partner. Sylvie, who's my wife, and Katie, who is my very shy and retiring daughter, who you would not know she was there.
So for those who are new to indie watchmaking, they're at least getting a taste of how big this is spreading. That we are getting the opportunity to each represent our own country. Me, my country, Johnny, his country, and what these events are like. You get to see, the art that these people
for me
are generating.
Such an honor to be able to do this, and when I say honor, I really mean it, because those people who turned up at this event and exhibited, no precedent. We didn't know how it was going to go. We didn't know what the footfall was going to be like. We didn't know what the venue was going to be like. And so there were so many uncertain variables and so many unproven aspects of it that everybody who came really did it.
Let's flip that over to Rune. Rune, what was it like being at a brand new event like this and standing next to, as far as I'm concerned, you're in a room with, who will be written in the history books of indie watchmaking. You're actually, I don't know if you realize really. You're young. It's like, it's cool to be in it. I was in that era of music, meeting my heroes, and still, oh, this is cool, man. I really love who you are. You really influenced me. But really not knowing, as they pass away now, like Van Halen's not here anymore, to really be awakened to, holy shit, what that guy did for music. Wow, just like, it's going to be like his guitar, to be able to touch somebody, to touch that will transcend other generations later on to possibly, shifting their life to create art in music. And you're standing with these guys right here. I mean, Paul Gerber is there. As far as I'm concerned, he's the one who started indie watchmaking.
Yeah. Real OG.
I mean, all these guys. I mean, what was that like?
It was surreal to see myself in a picture like this. This is something I remember during watchmaking school, where me and my roommate, we were like, yeah, we're going to go for the AHCI. We're going to make our own watches and all this. And now you're literally seeing yourself standing besides these real masters. And exactly as you said, I had this same conversation with several people there, like how I remember them from my young days as a young boy in the very early internet, scrolling around, finding one old article from Andreas Strehler about some calendar clock with a pocket watch, and seeing Bernhard Lederer's Blue Project and all these things. They were real inspirations as a young boy, some very formative inspirations. And I was there. It really was surreal. And I was so grateful to be there and to be able to show some of my products alongside their products. And also, after having worked for Thomas, helping him show and make his creations, to stand there next to them, I had the vitrine right next to Thomas, and to be able to show my own product next to him and have grown from this, what can you say, apprentice master type relationship, and not equals, but stepping a bit more up. It was crazy experience. I'm so happy about it.
See the love you shared, Johnny? See what you did by you being independent and stepping out and pushing to get this done in your country. It took years, just so everyone knows, years to do this and push through and do this. Now you're blessing.
Exactly.
It's look, as I say, it was an honor. I have looked for years of a platform to introduce independent watchmaking into my own country. I look at Irish society as being fairly sophisticated. It's relatively affluent. Yes, we have poverty like every country has, and we have people in terrible situations. But there's also a considerable amount. If you look around, if you look at the traffic they're driving up and down the roads, a lot of good cars, a lot of there was a lot of building work going on at homes and things. Yet watches were something that people were not really familiar with. Yes, of course, familiar with Rolex and with Patek Philippe, and we see Rory McIlroy with his AP on his the shirt sleeve, and people have that awareness. But outside of that, really, there's very, very little awareness. And I just see, if I had a life mission now, it is to say that I want to introduce and cultivate the concept of independent watchmaking in Ireland. And
but you have, and you will, and you are, and that's what we all are doing. That's what I do. And that's what I do here. Is it and I'm the only one who can always keep comparing everything to music and thrash metal music of my generation, where we had something new. And it wasn't about just making a pop song for the radio and appealing to the masses. Yep. It's the same in indie watchmaking. That's why I'm in it. It's because my shit is my art. It's my song, like it was in my band. I made that song back then that I co-wrote and co-produced because that's what I wanted to hear, and it wasn't out there. If you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't like it, go fuck yourself. Find something else. That's what independent watchmaking is. I represent my country and my art. We don't need a timepiece to tell time on our wrist anymore. We can actually express ourselves through micromechanics now. Right, Rune?
Exactly. Exactly. It's. I would say it's actually maybe some of the most potent ways of expressing emotion right now, because time is a base human condition that really dictates your life, and it takes away your life at some point. And watches is this symbol of time. So you have this incredible symbol, which is human universal and very basic, and you are able to manipulate it. So I really think it's one of the most perfect arts to work in.
Yeah. I mean, you sat with Prescher for a while. Now, again, like music and thrash metal was a new kind of music the Big Four were creating. And we were intricate players who practiced 10, 12 hours a day to get somewhere. We were very accomplished players, I should say. So it was, when we wrote songs, it wasn't just to write songs. We wrote it so hard that we couldn't even play it. Like, can you really play this? Because holy shit, if I can do this, people will go, holy fucking shit. It's catchy, it's great. But like, how the fuck is he doing that? This is before the era of videos. It was, how can you do that? It was real art and imagination for the listener who was imagining how, if I pick up my guitar, in his own mind, he had to figure out where the fingers were going. It wasn't visual. Now, you sat next to Prescher, because I know that's what I do with my micromechanics. So again, I'm just, the correlation here is the same. And that's what me and Johnny try to do in the show is this isn't a normal show. We're trying to educate the collectors that this is not just making a watch. This is you sitting next to Prescher learning, and I'm sure he was there going, holy shit, if we can make this fucking invention work, people are gonna fucking lose their, pardon my language, they're gonna lose their minds. Like, it's the same thing. Isn't it?
Well, I remember the first time I saw the flying triple axis tourbillon, and I was really like, holy shit, what is going on?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the same stuff, man. So
Really
because sometimes I used to get a little bit upset when people said, "Oh, it's got so much stuff on it. How do you read the time?" It's really, we look at you got your phone. There's time all around you, and you're in your house, you dwell in space as you walk through a city. I mean, it's everywhere. So our expression now is very almost parallel to music or any other art form.
They also say that metal music sounds very loud and it's just noise and all these things, and it's just you haven't acquired the taste for it yet. I'm sure if you worked on it, you would. And it's the same with a fine watch.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a few of us in that metal music that have had symphonies written around our songs now, and the symphonies have had trouble playing our stuff. That's how intricate it is. So bands like we all know that. So it's very intricate music. It just we're just many years ahead of everybody else's brain, just like some of these timepiece creators that are out there. You won't know that this mechanics was what it was until perhaps 20 years later. I mean, even Paul Gerber, when he first came out, I always tell the story because for me that was the beginning of indie watchmaking, before the internet, before everything. When he came out and he had his triple rotor, I mean, just those three things spinning and not hitting each other, that he managed to somehow take somebody else's movement and adapt that to that before. And he's only in his own room with no outside sources of information. There was no Googles. There was no nothing, the genius that he was. And then place a little ad in the back of, I think, one of the watch magazines like Horological Times or something back then. And us as watchmakers back then, we were being trained mainly as repair persons, certified Rolex and Audemars, Patek, restorations, and we would open that magazine and then see that little ad of him with his watch going, holy shit, like, I want to do that someday. And now it's gone from that to where we are today because we can reach people directly.
It's just like it really amazes me how many parallels there are to early metal music, because it's just like tape trading.
Yeah. But because we've been talking for half an hour here, and we haven't really got down to what you're about, Rune. And this is a very significant time for you. You have a new collection that you are just on the brink of debuting, and we were fortunate enough to see it in Waterford. But Byjra, I think you call it, which is an old Norse word. And tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Byjra, which is Old Norse for beginnings, I found that very fitting, as it is my first serious wristwatch. It's an old idea I had lying around for a basic case and dial and hand design that I've, as a young watchmaker, you do all these types of sketches and all, and you end up with books and books and books of sketches. And then one day I found a box in my rummaging around for old tools and old parts and all this that a watchmaker needs to do to get the good stuff. I found this guy in the south of Germany, and he said, well, I have a box of movements. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah, of course. So I looked into it, and it turned out to be a box of Prescher 7001, one of my favorite movements, new old stock, factory sealed, everything from the old factory. And I was sitting with this box of movements, and I realized these should not just end their days as donor watches or as trash in some basement being eaten by time, rusting away in entropy. And I decided to revive this old idea and create a wristwatch and get the movements out, telling time on people's wrists. So that's how I got started with this Byjra project. It's been a long way on the way, because I did it in a couple of stages, but now I'm ready to get the 25 pieces out.
Fantastic.
That's great.
And it is a thing of beauty. It really is, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Of
course, I enjoy it.
Yeah, but Rune, I have this philosophy. I have this belief in my mind that a watch that is made by a watchmaker is an extension of that watchmaker's personality. That you do. So a lot of the influences, the inspiration, you can see. I would say that your mentor, Thomas Prescher, was very, very pleased to see that, because I could see there's little traces of of that background strewn throughout your watch.
Exactly. I think there was some guy who was talking about my case materials, which is bronze and stainless steel, and I had a bit of a chuckle because, bronze and stainless steel, I guess, where did I get that idea from? But the watch really is me trying to emulate some of the very beautiful art that was in Scandinavia in the pre-Christian era, which was inspired by a lot of trips, for example, to Waterford and to all the way to Russia and to Greenland and all these places. And they brought back little pieces of aesthetically pleasing culture that they found all around. So you get this very rich aesthetic, art that I tried to work with, but still keeping it legible and usable, because I am a modern Dane, so I love things that are simple and nice. So this is the main inspirations I draw from in everything I do.
It's a fabulous piece and a fantastic way. It's like it is not your debut piece because, of course, previous to this, Rune, you have been working on one-offs for collectors. You have been working on restorations and conservation of significant pieces in Danish private collections. And you've also a clockmaker as well, with a clock that we will come to shortly, because it's a wonderful and very exciting.
I love this piece. It's very near to my heart. But as you say, I started out with the dream of making watches, and then when you work, you find out this rich history of both mechanical and aesthetic history that needs to be maintained, and that's very practical. But it also needs to be discovered by someone like me. Yeah. So I ended up diving deeper and deeper into the museum world and trying to get to work on some very interesting pieces, because I really feel like I touch a bit of the soul of the creator. And you see stuff from 1600s, from the 1700s, the 1800s, which if I didn't do the restoration on it, it would end up in the graveyard of history. This is a very nice piece you put out in a public collection here in Denmark. It's a giant clock with these barrels to indicate the time, from a French maker called Le Pot, which is actually a whole family of clockmakers, and it's an amazing piece. I would say it's one of the greatest pieces that are in a Danish collection. Every bit of the steelwork is through hardened and highly polished. All the brass work is highly polished, and there isn't one. It's a clock that is made with a wristwatch finish. It really is an amazing.
Wow.
And when you see stuff like that, you get inspired, or at least I do, a whole lot, because think about these guys sitting in the early 1800s doing this work, which is today very hard to do. Back then, without all the modern convenience we have, I would almost put it as impossible. It really looks like it just appeared. This doesn't look made. It looks like it appeared. And I'm very fortunate that I've been able to help maintain this for future generations, but also in a more egotistical sense, that I was able to experience it so intimately as you do when you're working on maintaining or restoring. You really get to feel all aspects of the clock. You really get to see all the backsides, all the file strokes, everything, and that has really rubbed off on the work I try to do now, because I see these clocks that are 400 years old, like the one you're showing right now. It's a bit more than 400 years, and I think I want to do a mark like that exists in 400 years. So that really puts some pressure on me to create something that's constructed for longevity and durability and being repairable, because the reason that this piece still exists is because it's made in a very high quality for its time, and it's also made so that it's actually repairable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
An amazing table clock, this.
Yeah, you've said this many times, Dan, about how what you're making has to be someone else coming after you must be able to maintain, service, and work on it, and that there's no point in making something that's so extraordinarily complicated that it works now, but whenever you pass, it's an enigma. So it's but I think it's fantastic path. It really is. You like Rune, when we say you've earned your stripes, you really have worked your way up through the to all the different steps. There's an awareness of history. There is you've an appreciation of that history. And one of the things that you said at the very outset too was how watchmaking and clockmaking connects generations, and that's unique to you. Exactly. Really. I have not heard somebody else say that, and it stood out to me that it was a really there's a simpatico there with what you're working with, and
this is a perfect representation, Johnny, like you said, of what I try to show, or at least convey my experience backwards to the younger generation of watchmakers who just come out of school. Even you have much experience now, and I always say, please don't make a watch right now. Go work for a company first. You'll get first experience in a brand, and then go branch off if you can, if that's your love, and do restoration. This will teach you not only to have a lot of different movements come across your bench, which you need to see, but it will teach you exactly what you just said, and that is seeing those file marks. I mean, I'm sure you place that down like I've done on my bench, and seen certain movements, early Pateks and stuff that other people may not have seen in my generation, and you open it up and you just put your tools down and you just look at it, and you're just like, how was this done before a light bulb? You know what I mean? Like, you just like, how is that finishing like that? Like, how is this like, and that instantly places something in you as a micromechanical artist. And then the next watches come along, and you do a bunch of them, and then a year later something else magnificent comes across your bench. This is putting all these little pieces in you who make you, not just representing your country, but like you said, you want to see file marks, or it's something that will last. Like in my timepiece that I make, or Roger W. Smith, we have these things instilled in us that we're going to build something. It could be somewhat complicated, but it's actually reduced to the most minimum amount of parts. And those parts, the metal, we go search out. How do we get that same metal from 400 years ago? There's different and better metal now. I do work with titanium in my escapement, but that's for a reason. But we search out that metal because we've seen those watches. We only got to tweak them a little bit, fix them up, and they're on their way for another 400 years. So what we have to spread as independent collectors in the beginning of this transition from people who buy into brands, and they buy their Rolex, and they buy their Audemars, then they buy the Patek, then it's a Vacheron, and they find us. The first thing they used to say is, who the fuck is going to fix that when I can't get parts? Like, I need to stick with a brand because I can get parts for my watch if I'm going to outlay that large sum of money. And what we try to convey to them, and we've hopefully gotten through to a lot of them, is it's actually the opposite syndrome. We build watches that any watchmaker, I can pass away. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But if my watch comes across your bench, you'll be able to make any part in my watch in your workshop. But you can't do that for brands. They only give you 20 years of parts, so everybody knows. And then
exactly, they cut you off, and it's one of the biggest dichotomies we have in watchmaking right now is industrial products towards artisanal products. An artisanal product has so much more life than an industrial product, and an industrial product, inherently by being industrial, is mass produced. So even though right now, and if you look at monetary gains, there are some industrial products with huge investment value, I think the long-term real value is the masterpieces of artisanal art, because industry will always prevail and it will always produce more, but artists' work only comes from the hands of artists, and there is only one for each watch.
And you can do that now thanks to people like Prescher and Gerber and all
Exactly.
of us. Just so you understand, the hurdles they had back then was you couldn't get a Shaolin 70 back then. Do you know how much money that was? There was no used or pre-owned Shaolin 70s in any condition. They were in every workshop. This is pre-CNC. They needed them to be used. So going independent back then, even when we the names in pictures in Johnny from Johnny's event, even all of us, it was a dream. We couldn't. It was impossible to make the parts within our walls. Now that's possible, and we're kind of handing it off to you and your generation. And I already see the style in your first piece is representing your country. You know, that's your first song. That's the first Anthrax album. That's your first Anthrax album. This is your life is in your art. That's what artisanal and independent watchmaking is. We're going to watch you, and 10 years from now, you're producing a clock or a watch, and that's the history that we're all able to give back to the world. That love, they're paintings. You know, it's songs, it's paintings now.
Listen, I've just put up a little comment there from our great friend and long-time supporter, Thomas Watches and Words. Hi, Thomas. Wonderful to have you watching us this evening. Independent one-person artisans might not be able to meet high demand and high production. That's a given. That is a fact, and we can see that now. We can see brands that are releasing a piece. Last year, I'm going to mention Zapek with their beautiful Antarctique, and I just know that they're backed up. They had to suspend taking orders for that watch. Such was the demand for it. Thomas wants to know, do we think that this could be a problem for watch collectors, art lovers? And I guess I can preempt the answer here, guys, by saying, of course, it's going to be a problem. But what can you do? Do the independent, as far as I can see, it's not in any position of power to influence who buys his watch.
It is a problem because you have some collector or customer who is not satisfied. You want to satisfy somebody, but when you try to satisfy more and more people, you go away from your core. There needs to be a balance, else you can just start a factory. And that's a legitimate way to do things. If you want to create a shit ton of watches, you should create a factory. But this is not the type of work that we're talking about right now. Because right now we're talking about the artisanal stuff. And it's not going to be able to, as much as I wanted to be able to give out my time to everybody that loves what I do, I just can't. I have a limit.
As do all of these artisan watchmakers, and that is a difference, and it's something that over time I have become increasingly aware.
I think we should maybe perhaps look at it on the flip side. I think it's incredible that we've finally been given the recognition that that my friends have to put up signs on their social media, Gronefeld and everybody, that I'm sorry, I have 5 years of orders. I have to suspend my books. So instead of caving in, like you just said, let's get some more machines, let's hire some more bodies to be an assembly line of crap and turning it to crap to satisfy an end user. We sticking to that thrash metal principle of this is my fucking album. This is what the music is. And, you know, if we can find a bigger arena, we will, but my product's not going to change.
Well, you're going to disappoint them either way. And do you want to disappoint them and water down your product, or do you want to disappoint some people and really live out the potential you have as a craftsman? That's the dilemma. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I just know which one I would choose personally.
I think what's really developing now, what's really cool, it's more people realizing this is a lifestyle. You know, it's like music. Come to the events. You might not be able to purchase one of my pieces. I only make two a year, possibly maybe three some of what I'm doing here because it's so difficult for me with the titanium and the escapement. But come, you'll get to touch one. Maybe 4 or 5 years from now, one will be available, and or maybe you'll have to go to Sotheby's to get somebody's piece, like Roger's pieces or somebody's. That's our art. that's what it is. We won't sacrifice our art, but you can come and hang, be part of the party. That's what's cool about this. It is a little gang like metal, of loving, cool people who really are beyond passionate. They're not purchasing watches to be a watch, to be, I got this because it's, look at me. It's the absolute opposite. It's just that you love what's part of you on your wrist and part of the story of who each one of us are and the suffering that we've been through as indie watchmakers to get where we are now. This wasn't an easy task. This is beyond learning to being a lawyer or a doctor and all that. This is lifelong stuff that we still don't know shit, I mean, every day it's a fight at the bench. That's our challenge. It's like golf or tennis, some days you're on, some days you're off. It's very human. And I think the collectors need to know that. It's not just a bunch of CNC machines spitting out fucking screws and parts, and little people are doing a lot of little jobs to put something together and mass produce crap. It's art. I don't want my watch to be perfect. I want marks on my watch. I want you to know I was in this. I'm not into that high shiny shit. It's me. That's me. I'm not perfect. I'm imperfect. You're imperfect. So why shouldn't my art represent who we really are as humans? None of us are perfect.
Funny
that's my gig. That's
a funny thing that I noticed yesterday, actually, and it was just, this is relating to how difficult it is as an artisan who's dedicated and has invested their life in pursuing the craft of artisanal, handcrafted watchmaking, and even getting to the stage of being an AHCI member. And because I saw yesterday a post from a watchmaker whose name I recognized. I thought, wow. But the post was, from now on, all my watches 50% off until I clear my inventory. And I was, but you're an AHCI. And Rainier Nienaber is his name, a German master watchmaker, and one of the early AHCI members, going back into the early 1990s. And so, Joe, just because you're an independent watchmaker does not mean that everybody is falling over themselves to try and get on the wagon. As I said at the start, there are a certain number of brands and watchmakers whose watches are kind of to sell themselves. All they have to do is say, I have a new watch coming out next year, and without even seeing it, without even seeing a render of it, it's gone. You missed that. If you don't reply to that message on the day that it comes out on social media, you have missed the boat. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what it is. It's gone. There are other watchmakers, Rainier Nienaber, who is, he is 1955 vintage, so he's a few years older than I. He's probably looking at retirement in another 4 or 5 years. But it just goes to show you that it's even being an AHCI member does not guarantee you that you're going to be guarantee a success. There's more to it than that. But and it's a very human. It's a very human endeavor to do. So it disappointed me to see that he had to make that announcement. But hopefully, maybe we mention his name, we mention and other people maybe pay a little bit of attention. Maybe he get a little bit of a spike and make him think that it's worthwhile. And there are other indies as well. There's one of my favorite female indie watchmakers is Saskia Maike Bouvier, and she made these most extraordinary watches back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And for whatever reason, I think the reason was being ahead of her time. She's gone on. I think she teaches now, but I'd love to see Saskia back making watches again. So, anyway.
but wait. See that was actually really cool, because let's compare that to other art forms, right? You put out an album, it does good. Everyone loves those songs. Those are the songs that they sing forever when you have 13 albums out. But album 3 and 4, things were happening within the band. You were happy because your other albums in the past did so good. Now you're in a happy mode. So when you get together and you write music, it's fucking happy songs, but you're not a fucking happy band. So people don't like those songs as much. Great music, they just don't like those songs. So in life and art, You know, you have to have ups and downs. If it's just a level playing field, yeah, I think that kind of gets boring. But if you know how to, that's again big part of indie watchmaking is we don't just sit at the bench nowadays, right? We have this, we have social media, we have everything we have, so that's at our disposal to brand ourselves correctly as well and do everything. We don't sleep. We have to do everything ourselves. We don't have teams of people. So if you don't know how to embrace that and you are just from the past generation and just put a picture up and then go, new watch, you know, that's not going to work in these times where collectors want to see who we are, what's our story, and they deserve to know our struggles, our ups, our downs, and follow us along the way. It's not a boring pattern to watch. It's similar within most of us now to show what we do at the bench and stuff, but we all have an individual story and representation. Sure. That's why we love what you're doing. You're representing.
We'll have a look at some of the things that Rune is doing. We'll have a look at some whenever we're talking about the handcrafting and the actual manufacturing process as well, because Rune has sent me a load of photographs and we won't get through them all, but even down to little aspects. So we'll take Berlia, his new collection for a kickoff, and we've already seen this image, and so you have manufactured the case, dial, crown, hands, everything in-house.
Yeah. Everything is made. This is a heritage movement. So the movement is the Prescher 7001, and it can be just pure, unadulterated, straight from the factory, or it can be reworked as ever people please. But the things that are manufactured in-house is everything you see. So the dial, the case, the crown, the hands. Of course I buy the sapphire crystal, but everything else is handcrafted by me.
Back to the start for the dials, or you're taking that from a block of brass.
Yeah, a plate of brass and jigsawing out the holes and sawing them out roughly. Do a stack at a time, so trying to be a little bit lean, turn them down to fit. And you know, at least I know Dan will know that all this working, controlling, rejecting pieces, all these things, it's just it's a lot of work, but it's what I enjoy.
Awesome. You absolutely, but it is that work that it personalizes every single watch, because we can see every watch coming together
exactly
in its component form. And as I said, so you also that's the dials, and then for the dial finish, which I did a little close up of the dial earlier there. So it's got that lovely. Can I describe it?
I really love to work with the patina of materials, and that's also why I chose bronze for the case, because it takes on a life of its own. And the dial is brass, and I keep it raw. Christian, my very good colleague here in Denmark's wife, Hanne, she is a world-class engraver, and she engraves the logo on them. So that's engraved and then filled with lacquer, and then I sandblast the surface and keep it raw. So I just I sandblast it, but I don't use the little balls of sand. I use like a more aggressive grit, because it gives a more interesting these sharp corners. It makes for a more interesting surface, I think. And
surface, yeah.
And then I can countersink and polish, so I have a little bit of a contrast. I like playing with contrast as well, but I keep the dial raw. But the thing is, it's made for longevity, as I said. So the name is engraved. So if in, let's say, 50 years, if it's otherwise been maintained, the dial looks horrible, you just strip it and you clean it and you reapply lacquer in the engraving, and you're as good to go again. And that's the thing I'm talking about when I'm saying that I try to work with longevity, and that is I try to avoid printing stuff and stuff that's put together with adhesives and all these things that are tactics that help with the production right now, but doesn't help with longevity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you learned that from clocks, that everything doesn't have to be rhodium plated.
Exactly. And I really think that over time, I have one piece that I've been carrying on my wrist that I did the first prototyping on, and that I've adjusted and reworked some case parts and trying to find out how it wears the most nice on the wrist. And I can see now from that one until a new one, it's turned out more golden. It's turned out it lives on. At some point you can go back and you can clean it off, and then you'll end up with the newly fresh brass surface. But through time, it changes character. It's very slow because the thing is surgically cleaned, and it's encased in a closed environment. So as long as you don't get some fingerprints on it by some other watchmaker, it will go very slowly. But over time, it matures like a wine.
Mm-hmm.
What a nice description.
I don't know why so many people. Well, I guess I kind of know why. In the old days, we're so scared of using raw brass, and that they had to plate everything. I guess because they couldn't really seal up a case too well. So if air got in a dress watch crown or something, it would oxidize. But nowadays, everyone loves that patinaed look of all kinds of metals. So I think we should all return to not having to rhodium plate everything. And keeping things in their natural state.
Exactly, it has its place, but in some sense, I really like how materials work. As long as longevity is secured, I really like the idea that the materials work and that they develop and mature, if you can say so. But
I agree.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So how far are you away from Christian's workshop?
Oh, a couple of hours by car. He's on another island. Denmark is one peninsula called Jutland, and then it's just a whole bunch of islands. And he's on the middle island called Funen. So it'll take me a couple of hours to go there. But visiting his workshop is always interesting. He's very, very friendly guy. I really love him, and
we all do. We all do. We're glad that you guys are taking over the country and representing, man. Yeah.
I'm very happy that I'm being put in the same boat as Christian. That's I'm scoring a bit of cheap points there.
That's only because he found
good company.
That's because he found a wife and partner to work with him. Now it's your turn.
Okay. So Christian
rules, man. Are you kidding me? He's a blessing to all of us, man.
Oh man, Christian was also with us in Ireland, in Waterford there 3 weeks ago, and just his I don't know. I use the word molecular when it comes to certain watchmakers finishing, and Christian is just.
But
the intensity of the finishing is.
But again, a good representation of the path you're taking, Rune, and again, how I recommend look the path he took, right? Restoration, Patek Philippe. I mean, that's the same thing I did. I specialized in Patek restoration and the smallest watching movements in the world and all that kind of stuff. Dude, gain it, and then he just busted out like I'm going for it because all those years he collected machines and restored them, and that takes years to restore them. That's the way to do it. And then when you're there, you know what you're doing, and he's doing it, man. And now you're there as well. We're all rooting for you, man.
Thanks.
When does Berlia come out? And you said 25 pieces. What's the story about it? So has production officially?
I already have some orders from when I was working on it and showing people it. So before the real launch, I already sold some pieces. So those are being made right now. And then depending on how many orders I get in, they are to be delivered at the end of this year and start of next year.
Fantastic.
Great.
And again, I know we talked about this in Ireland. What is your selling point at the minute? Your price? I think you mentioned about
It's just a hair under 5,000 euros. I made the price in Danish kroner, so I need to do a bit of calculation. But 4,500 euros.
It's a lot of watch for the money, in my opinion, Rune. And you know, a watch that you can only make a certain number of per annum.
Exactly.
I don't know. Maybe it's my old business head on me that makes me try and do the calculations and say, like, you know, what is your ceiling of turnover if you were to able to make 10, 15, 20 pieces?
Yeah, but you know what? It's I'm not going to be a rich man from just this project, but you know, it's called Byjra for a reason. This is the beginning of something big.
Yeah, origin, something big. I like the sound of that. What do you think, Dan?
I think that's exactly the way the roadmap he's on is perfection. It's great. Yeah, everything he's done in the past, the master he's sat next to gain knowledge, the school he went to is mind-blowingly incredible, and he's taking his time and doing things slowly, carefully, his way. Sure. That's art. That's true art form.
Yeah. Before
that's black metal, and he's blasting black metal while he's making watches. So if that's a big bonus.
Yeah, I think for you, man, it's that Scandinavian black metal is.
You know, in the end, like a couple of years from now, when I bust out and I'm moving about, we're gonna have to just start like, you know, watchmaker jams. Or, I mean, it's got to be something that.
Wow, I like that idea.
Yeah, see, that we got to upset the industry at a new level.
Oh, absolutely, man, absolutely. But so listen, while we have you, there's no point in not talking about a piece that I absolutely loved, and it's called the Moonwork. And Moonwork is a clock. And it's a tall, you would call it a kind of a long case clock, except it doesn't have a case. And it doesn't really tell the time, does it, Rune?
Well, it tells the time, but now we're talking another scale. It is a tall case clock because it stands on the ground and it's 2 meters tall. It indicates the phases of the moon and nothing else. So it's month-going regulator movement based on a constant force spring and a Graham escapement, carbon fiber pendulum. So it's quite accurate. And then through light and shadow, it displays the moon's phases on a sphere of porcelain. So the watch, as I said, stands 2 meters tall. It's made of black basalt, which is one of the rocks that are most prevalent on the moon. But also in Sweden, they have a lot of it. So we went and got a huge hunk of basalt and got it carved out by a very incredible mason near Copenhagen. And then the movement is encased in a sphere of black clay, burned, and it's showing faces on a sphere of porcelain. And it's carried by a band of powder-coated stainless steel. And I made this project with a design studio, a duo in Denmark, two very incredible young ladies called Signe and Isabel. Aim and Lund is the studio called, and they were exhibiting something at the Cabinet Makers Autumn Exhibition in Copenhagen, which is a yearly furniture exhibition for fine furniture. And I met Signe while doing the TV show. And we were talking about how clocks don't have any place in modern interior decoration. And Signe makes very high-end, very amazing, forward-thinking interior furniture. So I asked her, why is that? And we couldn't come up with a reason other than nobody does it. And I said to her, we need to do it. And she was like, that sounds like a fun idea. And then she just went on her way chewing on it. A year later, she calls me up and she's like, we just got the theme for this year's autumn exhibition. It's going to be time. tact and tone, so it's perfect for a clock. You want to make a clock? And I was like, of course I want to make a clock, especially if I can do it with you guys. And we started working on it in the start of 2021, and it's like in January, February, we had the first meetings, and then we had to have it finished by September. So it was really it really was like a marathon, but also a sprint. So 8 months more or less work on this, and 4 months full time, or a bit more than full time, in constructing this movement with 337 parts, fully ball bearings, and then with no indication other than a projector that projects the moon phase on the sphere. So this is a very poetic piece, because the moon is one of the primary timekeepers for humans. Before any mechanical sort of timekeeper, before any water clocks, before any of the very early timekeepers, you had the moon, you had the stars. So if you think about this shepherd sitting on the steps near the Tigris River in a warm night, tending to his sheep, and he sees the moon rising, he sees the moon phases changing. It's a very calm cycle. Yeah. It's not one that drives you forward like a second hand, like ding, 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 counting steps until you die. It's more this static object. It's like this static dynamic object that evolves over time. It's a very pleasing cycle. It really fits the human brain, I think, because it's 1 week to go from new moon to quarter to full, and then again. So it's static when you look at it, but when you are just living with it in your space, it moves. You see time is flowing. So you will never catch your train with this clock, but you'll know time is going. You'll have some sense of existence without this modern slave master of a clock beating you to go to work. So we're trying to take this and use it for a philosophical purpose, to slow down a bit. And that's one of the things I said earlier about watches and clocks being very powerful symbols, because they have for many, many years controlled our lives and been slave masters, and the basis of many great discoveries, but also many, let's say, stressful new things in human existence. And we wanted to take that away.
This, you'll have to forgive my appalling screen direction here, Rune, but this actually is I didn't put I should have put a full screen background on that, but anyway, nobody will notice, because they're going to be absolutely transfixed with what you're talking about here, with your actual, with the clock itself.
It really is. I would say, if I had one piece that's my favorite, of the things I did, I think this is it, because not only is it fully 100% in-house, made by me and the two, Sina and Isabel. It's 3 artisans that worked on it with a couple of friends, like a guy who does, like a smith that does the stainless steel work, a mason who cuts stone. It's made totally by our team, and it's made in this great collaborative process. And I'm going to do more work with them and do more sorts of very new types of clocks, because they have a unique way of looking at. Of course, they have a very stringent and beautiful aesthetic. I really love their aesthetic, but they also have this novel way of looking at clocks, because they don't come from clocks. One is a furniture architect and one is a cabinet maker. So they have this other way to look at it. And when I get together with them, we get these crazy ideas, and there really is no limit. We're just playing. And this is the stuff that it results in, this very poetic piece.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. I love it. And
many a watchmaker is fascinated with moon phases, and even in recent years, trying to make it as accurate as they can as far as the mechanism. Sarpaneva, Sarpaneva is his whole gig. Sarpaneva is he's in love with moon phases, and I think it's incredible. I'm the same way. It's
It really is. It's the primary timekeeper, man. It really is. It was the first timekeeper. So that's, of course, we're trying to emulate it. That's the human condition, emulating something greater that we see.
How did you finish all those brass parts there? They just left raw?
They are left raw, but with a coating of microcrystalline wax. So it's the same. Actually, it's the same I would do with some historical clock. So it's something called Renaissance wax, but a lot of companies make this, and it's microcrystalline, so it leaves a microscopic thin film that can be washed off and reapplied as many times as you want, and it's very safe for all types of substrates. And now the piece has been exhibited around a couple of places and moved a couple of times, and it's still as pristine as when we started. So it really is keeping up. It's like lacquering the parts, but at the end, you need to maybe reapply it in a couple of years instead of lacquer that can keep for years and years and years. But the thing is, it's very non-intrusive. And also, the plan was to gold plate it, but you know, when you're working on, when you have eight months more or less to do this, you end up a totally novel construction. You have some things to baby out. So at some point, I had to move it to the exhibition hall. So it got some Renaissance wax in the best style I know. So
excellent, beautiful, man.
I actually think that it suits the natural color as opposed to I couldn't imagine that in gold plate, because I don't think it's your style. Maybe I'm wrong, Rune, but I think there's a very organic, earthy look to that.
You're right, and I could sit here and say that it was totally planned and everything, but it was a lucky strike from maybe somebody higher than me moved my hand, but it ended up in the best sense. It really did.
It's magnificent. I love it, and I think clocks are really. I think clocks are just around the corner again. I really. I
totally agree.
Sebastian Neschke is a master in Germany. We have Alessandro Rigotti. We have Bob Bray of Sinclair Harding in the UK, and we have so many young clockmakers coming along too. And again, I think that it is the next thing for people who are collectors of watches, and they're sitting there and they've got a battery-powered clock in their office. You know it.
Yeah.
It just says to me the opportunity is there, or the need is there.
It really is, and when you think about something like smaller clocks, table clocks, and small wall clocks, there are not a lot of there's not a lot of people that make it. And I think it really could be the next big thing. Also because maybe it's because the type of client I have, but a lot of them have collections of antique pieces from very historical makers, and it really needs to be in a home. Like a clock makes a house a home. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a focal part of any home, and very often if it is a piece like that, it's not only for the home, it's an heirloom. It will go down through the generations, and it'll be something that will be, whenever the time comes for us to pop our clogs, you know, the next generation will be going, who got it, you know. And so you can start fights even after you're gone, like, you know, which is, there you go. So no, I definitely think it's an area that is, well, it's moving into the spotlight as well, with again, thanks to the emergence or the resurgence of independent watchmaking. So so what is next then? As you say, you're with your you're going to continue your collaborations, continue with Byjra, and are you going back to do any more repair shop, or are you?
It's still the network needs to order more episodes, so hopefully they'll order some, and I'll be back there as soon as I can. I love doing that work. It really wasn't what I thought I would do. Now I've done it for a couple of years now, and before that, when I was approached by a caster, I was like, TV, no, that's not me. But I ended up enjoying it a lot. So it was also a bit of personal development to be the center of attention and not the product. Like when I do a watch or a clock, the product and my work is very much in the center, but now the focus needs to be a bit more on me, and it felt weird at the start. It wasn't what I was thinking I should be doing, but it ended up being very nice. So
I remember one day. Yeah.
Hopefully I'll get to do more. And other than that, I'm working on another wristwatch project for a group of collectors here in Denmark, which is going to be very awesome.
Wow.
That's great.
Also historically inspired, and it's the idea is taking shape right now with a couple of very dedicated and great collectors from Copenhagen, and there'll probably be a bit more made than that they want to do, maybe a small series of 9 pieces or something like that, because it's a bit more work with a bit more of the movement and all these things made by me. So I'm not going to do a big series like 25. It's going to be a bit smaller, but hopefully I can present something and also offer some of them for sale if they're not taken before it's finished.
So before we split, can you explain to us how and where your workshop is? Is it within your home? What are your future plans? How did you acquire your machines? Just for those who want to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, there is my pride and joy, my Schöblin 70, which is I got it from a widow of a tool maker of a very big factory in Denmark called Autophon, who does gramophone needles and pickups for gramophones.
Cool.
And it was in the tool makers department, and it was almost unused. It really was in great condition. And he got it when he retired. He got to take it home, and sadly he passed away. But then I was there, and I actually acquired it while I was working with Thomas Prescher. And I was thinking like, yeah, I'm going to Switzerland, the home of Schöblin. I'll find something down there. I'll be on Ricardo and everything, looking for a nice day. And then when I went down there, literally a week after, I saw it come up for sale back in Denmark. So I had to get one of my old teachers from the watchmaking school to go look at it to see if it was a wreck or if it was worth anything. And I got it. So this is in the basement of my workshop. I share a workshop with a very good colleague of mine who has a traditional watchmaking and clockmaking workshop and a store where people come and get stuff repaired and restored. And he had a lot of extra space, and he was missing a bit someone to ping pong with, and I was like, of course I'll be there. And now we share a lot of the bigger machines, and we share space. There's a basement, and which is for machines and doing more coarse things. And I also do tower clocks, so stuff like that in the basement. There's a room for polishing all the way away from it, and then there's a room behind the store front, which has the small watches, so cleaning machines and work tables and all this.
Great. Wow, looks like a nice space.
It's an amazing space, and I really enjoy this place. Just outside of Copenhagen. Some would say it's a bit boring, but I would more call it calm. And also people very laid back and chill, and it's nice. I live maybe 800-900 meters from the store, so I have my daily stroll to the store and do my work, and it's great.
Wow. So you only need your bicycle and you're good to go.
Oh, I go on feet, but yeah, of course, I could take the bike.
When I look at that, Rune, I've said it often before. I didn't discover watchmaking, and in particular fine handcrafted watchmaking, until I was pretty late on in life. And when I say late on, 40 was the first time I really got involved with watches and selling watches and appreciating what they were. And my learning really started then. Probably 5 years later, I was looking at watches by Vianney Halter, by Felix Baumgartner, by Thomas Prescher, by Franz Lutz, and people that got there. And my eyes were opening. And when I look at that as a work environment, man, I just do not know how a young guy could not want to work at a place like that, where you are doing your own thing. And particularly nowadays, where there's an increased awareness of the craft, the skill, the significance of these crafts that have been handed down. Fundamentally, the technology is unchanged in 300 years, how a watch or how a clock works.
Well, you only need your hands and a couple of tools, and you can make watches. I've made a main plate and bridge set for an old movement with just doing fix and some hand tools. It's doable. It's a shit ton of work, but it's doable. So you can start, if you really want, you can start almost just with a table, and that's also very appealing. But through time, I'm also I enjoy technical things, so I also enjoy machine tools, of course. Most watchmakers do. So of course I acquire more and more. But that really makes it seem authentic, that it's not a machine that is doing this for you. You are doing it with your hands, and you are skillfully manipulating, and sometimes when you are learning, not so skillfully manipulating machine. And it becomes this form of its own form of choreography or art. I can get a bit savvy about it, but I really see art and in everything about my work. I really do.
Wonderful.
Yeah, milling the crown there for some grips for the crown.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, yeah, and those sort of things speak volumes to me. I would love to be doing that. However, I do where I lament the fact that I didn't discover watchmaking earlier. I celebrate the fact that I discovered it at all, and have had the opportunity to do the things that we're doing. It's taken a long time, as with a lot of the independent watchmakers. It has taken a long time to be able to pull off the gig that we put off in Waterford a few weeks ago. Is something I'm as I said earlier on, I'm still processing that, and we're hopefully doing that again next year. And it'd be great if you were back with us again. And so, but that's and again, I've talked about this, and I've taken your compliments, and I've taken the nice things that you said. It couldn't have happened without the people at Waterford Treasures and the city
great.
And Mayor Joe Kelly, who made us so welcome and laid on such an incredible location for us. And I am deeply indebted to those people, and and hopefully there's an interest. They'd like to have us back next year, so we got to figure out a date. And
I'll go to Waterford just for those people. The people at Waterford Treasures.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely. Dan, you'll be there as well. And,
yes, sir.
So there we go, folks. This has been the first of a new run of In the Metal. We have a few more episodes lined up over the coming weeks, and hopefully we'll be adding to that. We'll see how things pan out over the summertime, and when people do take a little bit of time off. Apparently, if you can imagine that, people taking holidays, it's I think it's terrible. But so anyway, we look forward to seeing more exciting projects from you. Definitely, you're only really getting started. And
Thank
Dan,
you.
yourself, we'll hopefully be seeing how we should do a show about you some night and see how your work is getting on.
We're all only getting started. That's what's cool about indie watchmaking. If it interests you, that's what's cool about being a watchmaker. We're all only getting started every day. It's a never-ending learning curve, and it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Well, everybody who joined us tonight and for our first episode in quite some time, I hope you enjoyed it. If I am a little bit ring rusty, I can't speak for anybody else. I hope you'll forgive us, but we look forward to seeing you again in the next episode, which will be happening next week. And I look forward to seeing you all then. To everybody who has followed us, for your nice comments, for your lovely welcome, thank you very much indeed. Goodbye, folks, and we will see you
later, Jack. See you later, everybody. Rune, thanks for coming on, and just
thank you for having me on.
Keep pounding away, keep representing your country. You're doing an incredible job, man, and we'll definitely hang in the near future.
Yeah,
for sure.
And Rune, we will do this again sometime when there's new pieces coming out. Let's not just make this a one-off. Let's go back and
Johnny, I'm always available for you.
You're the man. No problem. Rune, you're a star in every way, and we love you. And so thank you very much. Everybody, we will catch you very soon. Thanks for joining us.